believe we're giving away lots of prizes too.
Heck yeah.
People have to hang out a little bit to get info on prizes, but there's prizes.
There are prizes.
There will be prizes.
And I have one of the prizes, and I love it. I wore it last week. So.
Oh, did you? Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Revenue Rockstars.
I've not seen a lot of Rockstars in the last year or two. I used to go to shows all the time. In fact, when I was in college, I started the student radio station. I was in charge of concerts for a long time. So I did a lot of live local music when I was a much younger man.
Yeah.
And still try to go to a lot of shows as much as I can. And I live in a music town. But boy, it's been crazy lately. Everything keeps getting canceled.
For sure, all those live events. But looking forward to having those back at some point.
No doubt. That's why we don't cancel webinars. We are. I think we're live. We live on the internet.
We are live. It looks like the interwebs have accepted our stream, and we are now live.
Fantastic.
So, welcome everybody to the grand finale of our Revenue Rockstars series. Whether you're joining us for the first time or you've tuned into all 11 sessions, we welcome you back. We are so happy that you're here. We've got some great stuff for you today. My name is Greg Bond, and I'm the head of revenue here at SharpSpring, which is a constant contact company. And I am joined by Jay Bear. Jay is the hype-free Hall of Fame marketing and consumer experience keynote speaker, founder of Convince and Convert, tech investor, New York Times bestselling author of 6 different books, creator of 5 multi-million-dollar companies, podcaster, and founded the radio station as a former DJ. Jay Bear, how are you, man?
Great to be here, my friend. Also a SharpSpring customer.
That's right.
I think we should mention that as well. Fantastic to be here for the conclusion of the Revenue Rockstars series. I was here at the beginning of the series a few months ago, and wow, what a lineup it has been in this program. Just unbelievable knowledge bombs getting dropped in every edition, and such a great crew. We had Seth Godin, Ann Handley, and Shama Hyder, and a bunch of agency experts and SharpSpring customers. Each and every one of them has been really, really interesting. And we'll make sure that people have an idea of where to go. If they didn't catch some of the sessions, we'll make sure you can catch the replays, because it is well worth your time. Right there. Look how nicely that was done. SharpSpring.com/revenue-rockstars, which is pretty fantastic. So how do we define a revenue rockstar, Greg?
Well, it's a great question, Jay. I'm glad we have a slide here to help us remember how we define it. But this is going back to the beginning of this session, and we started talking about what revenue rockstars were. You and Chip Howe sat here and went through these. But revenue rockstars are marketers who have a revenue focus and who aren't looking at the vanity metrics, not just the vanity metrics, like the clicks and the impressions, like not driving SQLs for the sake of SQLs or MQLs for the sake of MQLs. These are people who are looking at what actually drives revenue for the business, and are endeavoring to deliver that to their sales team. So that's one of the big things that I, as a salesperson myself in my history, I'm happy that that is one of the things that we look for in a revenue rockstar.
All about the Benjamins in Greg's world. These revenue rock stars, they can really play their instrument, correct?
That's right. And they know why things work and what things work. They are able to kind of pull those nuggets of information out and know exactly why, and have that conversation with either a CEO or a CFO and say, I know exactly what's working. And that just goes to show you got to follow these things all the way down to the bottom of the funnel.
In rockstar parlance, they sort of know the tempo of the song. A lot of marketers get things right, but they get them accidentally right, which is not the same as knowing why and what things work. What's the third ingredient of the revenue rockstar?
Third one for me is, think about revenue as a multi-point customer journey. This is, customers today aren't just a single point of attribution. You've got to think about all the different touch points. There's studies that have come out recently that have even increased the number of touch points that a customer has with a business before they go by. And marketers, revenue rockstar marketers, really understand that.
They are optimizing the set list. And in fact, we'll talk a little bit about client retention in today's program.
That's right. And then they also have a system that will help them test and operate that creation, right? Like they're not just a set it and forget it type of marketer. They really want to learn and grow and change over time.
Yeah, this idea, like Rockstars would do, to rehearse and practice, and then go out and take the show on the road. I got to tell you, I've been in digital marketing now since 1993. So before there were browsers, before you had to pay for domain names, since the very, very beginning. And it is way harder now because there's so many more options. The technology is way, way easier, but the options are so much more numerous that you really have to test and optimize over time. What's the last one?
Last one, have a plan and a system to go on tour, to take this thing all the way.
Yeah, and I like that idea of going on tour, right? Because a tour is a sequence of performances. It's not really a one-off. That wouldn't be much of a tour. And I think this Revenue Rockstars series is a good example of that, right? We've got a dozen series components for you. Again, make sure you check the replays out. I will say that we're putting together a highlight video, which is going to be slickety. So it's all the little amazing quotes from Seth Godin and Handley and all the different Drew McClellan, all the participants packaged up into one highlight reel. So look for that. We'll make sure you get a link to it.
Yeah, I want to actually see if I think we have a slide that shows all the awesome
do we have
speakers.
There we go. Yeah, look at that. That is a crew
in this series. I mean, talk about a bunch of revenue rock stars in one place right there.
No doubt.
I mean, we had customers of ours, agency partners of ours, every influencer imaginable. I mean, this has been an incredible series. So definitely check out the recap video that we're putting together. And you can also go to the website and you can see all of these sessions. You can binge watch them. You know, it's like Netflix and chill, but with revenue rockstars.
Netflix for B2B marketing challenges. I like it. Yeah, it's fantastic.
So, but we decided to pull this last session here together so that we could kind of go back and take our own tour of the Revenue Rockstars series and pull out some of the nuggets of information and insights that these wonderful speakers provided for us, and just kind of collect them all in one video, just as a recap to end this series off. But just so everyone knows too that's watching, this isn't the end of engagement with SharpSpring and with influencers and talking about Revenue Rockstars and tips for marketers. There's a whole lot more to come. And we'll talk a little bit more about how to engage with that stuff in the future, but there's a lot more to come. But before we dive into the actual insights themselves, I wanted to jump into just a little bit of housekeeping. First, we are going to be taking questions. We are, if you want to go ahead and put them into the chat or whatever platform you're on, go ahead and drop them into the comment section, and our team will collect them, and we'll get to answer some of those here at the end. Our phone lines are muted. We are recording this, so we will share it afterwards. You can share it with those people who weren't able to attend live. But stay tuned at the very end. We are going to do a giveaway, a grand prize giveaway. It's the last one, last session, last giveaway. I'm super excited about that. So stay tuned to the end.
When we started this, I don't know, when was it? September, October? It was a while ago. When we started this program, myself and Chip House put together this list of 11 agency and digital marketing problems. Not providing true value for the target audience, not understanding how to stay top of mind among prospects. And so we sort of use this as a framework for this Revenue Rockstar series. But what we found, interestingly enough, Greg, was some similarities, but also some differences in the actual pain points that participants in the series, attendees, told us, and also some of the quotes and comments from some of the Revenue Rockstars that were on the microphone. So we've got a list of common pain points that were sort of uncovered Indiana Jones archaeology style during this program, right?
Yeah. So these are the main pain points. We sort of connected the dots after all these conversations with all these influencers and all these customers and partners. And we found that there's a lot of common pain points that kept getting brought up over and over again. And so here's that list. And these are the ones that I kind of want to focus in on today with you, Jay, and talk through and tease out and just kind of revisit some of the really, really great nuggets of information that we got from these speakers. And I think for me, the first one that I want to start with, and it's something that I've looked at, many times and talked to many of our customers about, is this disjointed MarTech, the MarTech stack. And we had a really great session with Sheena Graham, and I think we have some quotes from her up here. Do we have that, at least Sheena's quote?
I think
Not that
one behind that, maybe.
Where'd it go? There it is. All right. So we have this great quote from Sheena and another one from Matt, and they're both just sort of talking about that MarTech stack and how having a unified technology stack and a unified database, a centralized customer database where all of your information goes into, is such an important part of being a strong marketer and a revenue rock star, right? Like we mentioned it kind of at the beginning, when we define a revenue rock star, you got to be able to follow these interactions and engagements with your customer all the way down to the revenue, right? You gotta see it to the bottom. And when you, as a business, as you start to grow, your tech stack grows, right? And things start to become disjointed because you start adding more and more features and functionality and tools, which are great for your business and they help you grow. But at some point, the operational complexity begins to be too much, and it can actually stunt your growth and stall your growth in a way. And so that digital transformation, while important for your business, you got to be careful. And at some point, you're going to need to consolidate in order to really get your business moving again. So, Jay, I'm sure as a marketer yourself that you're familiar with this disjointed MarTech stack, and I'm just curious, what are your thoughts on that problem?
Absolutely, Greg. I mean, the more different pieces of software you have between customer behavior and traceable revenue, the less accurate the traceability of that revenue will be. And ultimately, yes, you want to make sure you've got best of breed solutions for all the different marketing technology that's out there. But this idea that in order to get best of breed, you've got to have 3, 7, 14, 67 different platforms, all with their own login, all with their own owner inside your organization, and each of those people having to be trained on another platform. For small businesses and medium-sized businesses in particular, the cost of this multi-platform bias is extraordinary. And I can tell you firsthand, Greg, when my organization moved from a disparate marketing tech stack to a unified marketing tech stack with SharpSpring, the efficiencies and just the ability to say, okay, look, y'all just need to learn one platform. And if we can all learn this one platform and all the different things it does, we're going to be way better off. Yes, there is a little bit of initial switching pain because people are used to doing what they're used to doing, even if it's inefficient. But once you get everybody aligned, wow, what a home run.
Right. And if you want to stay nimble as a business, you don't, if you use a unified tech stack, you don't have to hire that admin that's going to continue to move data back and forth between these siloed applications, right? And so you get to save yourself some money, you get to save yourself some headache. And even when you do that, right, you still don't get a holistic view of your customer because there's different, keys that connect the two customers. Like you spend most of your time sort of guessing or shrugging your shoulders. And I think that's one of the big problems there that kept kind of coming up in our conversations with some of these revenue rock stars. And I think it's an important one to call out.
Yeah, what's interesting is the another one that we found a pain point is this idea of digital transformation.
Mm-hmm.
And I think these tie together nicely because I'm telling you, folks, digital transformation doesn't mean buy more software. Right? That's not digital transformation, right? That's just increasing your monthly fees, right? So digital transformation can and probably should mean being smarter about your digital technology overall, being more efficient, automating where it makes sense to automate, but adding more isn't necessarily the goal.
Right. And yeah, adding more, connecting more, pulling more integrations in together um, creates its own problem if you're not careful. And so I just think as your business grows, you need to be aware of it, right? You need to respect it. You look at it as an opportunity for growth, but don't lock yourself into a situation where you get to be 25-30 million dollars and now you're stuck and you can't grow anymore because you cannot grow outside of your tech stack. Then you get in a situation where you spend a whole bunch of money to consolidate everything and you go hire somebody else to come in and a third party come in to help you fix the problem that you created for yourself. So
I thought it was so interesting, this third pain point that we saw, gaining a competitive advantage. It wasn't in that initial list of 11 that Chip and I documented at the beginning of the series, and I found it fascinating. It does make sense, though, because as marketing agencies in particular, but all marketers at some level, start to embrace more technology, when it's a technology fight, eventually everybody's got pretty good technology, right? So then it becomes, if I can't do better than my competition because I've got a better tool, then what is the secret sauce? And that definitely bubbled up in this series. I thought it was really interesting.
yeah, and I loved what came out of that, even with McGee and his session. Him saying, the easiest thing to do is just to go call your customers up and say, hey, like, get to know your customers. Right. And I mean, it just came up over and over again. There was a session with Seth Godin where he said similar things, right? Like, get to know your customers, really, really dive in and learn, have empathy for them, earn their trust, understand what they're going through, and speak to them directly.
It makes such a difference, even if it's anecdotal, right? Obviously, a full-blown survey or whatever would be great, but even anecdotal. So I've got a new newsletter called The Bear Facts. It's thebearfacts.com. And when people sign up, they get a welcome sequence, which is delivered via SharpSpring. And one of the first email, I think it's the second email in the sequence, just says, hey, what's your deal, man? Like, who are you? What do you do? Why are you subscribing to this email? What can I help you with? And I get several of those back every day. And it's really fascinating just to see, well, this person is in Romania and runs like a car dealership. And this person is in California and owns a bunch of insurance agencies. And again, that's not math, it's anecdote, but it definitely helps you focus up your marketing to understand who you're really talking to.
Yeah, and no buyer's journey is exactly the same. And so really being able to see all the different engagement points with those buyers and again, go back and analyze them and look at them and think about how you can engage with them better or differently. And to be able to do that many different buyers' journeys and engage with those people, you have to have an automation system that's robust enough and a CRM that's robust enough to be able to communicate at scale, or your business isn't going to grow, right? And so I think that was one of the really interesting and important things. But we had so much come out of that gaining a competitive advantage point. We actually have another slide that talks about it, and the session with Drew McClellan where he talked about, and I thought this was so interesting because we talk a lot about like the broadening of the tech stack and you want a broader audience and you want to grow, but really a lot of this competitive advantage is narrowing your focus and really diving into being consistent and relevant and meaningful and helpful to that target audience that you have.
Yeah, Ann Handley says the same, this idea that you don't have to be everywhere and you don't have to do everything. That there is some truth to spreading yourself too thin. And if you can create excellent marketing in a couple of places, that's typically better than mediocre marketing in all of the places. Ann herself, for example, like famously hates video, doesn't do video, doesn't do YouTube, doesn't do any of it, doesn't have a podcast. It's just not her thing, right? She has an amazing email newsletter, and she's on Instagram and she's on Twitter, and that's kind of the list, right? And that's not all the platforms. I'm on Snapchat and TikTok and all this other stuff. It's like, do a few things great, and I think there's some wisdom there for sure.
Right. Like what do you stand for? Who are you? People like you engage with your content, and I think that's, again, it kind of even goes into the next main pain point that we have, which was growing leads and traffic. And I was actually fortunate enough to host this session with Seth Godin, and man, he had so many wonderful nuggets of information that he dropped on us. And this is just one of them, but he really, really called out people who purchase lists and who, when you try to grow those leads at the top and you try to do it in a way that isn't necessarily ethical. Like I loved the metaphor you used. If Steven Spielberg dropped his cell phone and you picked it up, you can't call George Clooney and pitch him your movie. Like you did not earn the right to have that conversation. So why do marketers believe that they can do that as well? And I found that to be really compelling argument about how you can earn trust in your business in order to grow leads and your traffic.
Yeah, I've actually been in Ubers where somebody has figured out, either because I was at a particular conference or whatever, that I'm a technology investor and advisor, etc. And then the driver, while I'm like by myself locked in their vehicle on an interstate, is like pitching me their startup idea. And I'm like, bro, not the right time. Like I understand you're going carpe diem on this, but let's set up a time to talk about this when I'm not a prisoner in the back of the vehicle. That is not permission marketing.
Right. That's not at all permission marketing.
And Seth's such a brilliant guy. It's got to be both fascinating and frustrating to him that he wrote permission marketing 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe more now. I don't know. It was a long time ago. And yet still has to reiterate the key lessons from that seminal book today, because people always try to take shortcuts, right? It's the marketer's dilemma, right? Like, well,
mm-hmm.
I know what to do, but if I do it this way, it'll save me some time. So let me try to do that. And the shortcuts never work over the long haul.
Right. And that's what he pointed out is, those things, he's seen any number of different tactics that have that sort of, unethical tilt to them. And he says they're short-term gains, but none of the companies that have done that stick around in the long term. And I just think it's really important to remember that as a marketer. Like you're just because you can doesn't mean you should. And if you want to earn the trust of your audience, again, be the authority, be consistent, and deliver the right message to the right person at the right time, and they'll come. You'll grow the top of your funnel by doing that.
Yeah, if you're going to rewatch one of the sessions, make sure it's the Seth Godin session, because it is a barn burner for sure.
It's fantastic. So a lot of those pain points that we just went through were kind of top of the funnel type stuff, ways to fill that. And I think as you move a little further down the funnel, you get into more operational problems that people were running into. And there's a couple of things that, it's all about resources and time and optimizing that. And Jason Kramer talked a lot about, lack of resources and time. And we had some stuff from Drew around that, that he, agencies can typically shoot themselves in the foot when they think they're producing all the things on all the channels, as opposed to just picking one big meaty thing, right? And they run out of resources and they run out of time by not picking something even more focused, like we talked about it a minute ago. And there's lack of optimized, personalized client experiences. And again, all of these I think are sort of either symptoms or results of some of the other things, but these are common problems that marketers continually run into. And I'm just, curious from your point of view, like this seems to me to be, as a marketer, some of the blocking and tackling that you need to do in order to have a scalable agency business that really serves your customers well. Is that right?
Yeah, and lack of resources and time is often a problem, but you're right that it's usually symptomatic of something else. And it's either that you're having to retrain new people all the time so that everything takes longer than it should. So a lot of times lack of time actually means lack of experience on your team, right? And you're churning staff more quickly. The other thing about resources, as we mentioned earlier, right? You don't have to do everything, just do a few things well. And what I always advise people to say is, if somebody says, hey, I want to also do this other thing, unless that request carries with it additional resources, your answer should always be the same, Greg. Cool. You want to start a podcast? Awesome. What would you like us to stop?
Right.
Because if it's just more and more and more and more, the average quality gets less, 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 less. And again, like Seth said, you can fool some of the people some of the time, but you can't fool all the people all the time, not for long, right? So I am aware of the resources challenge, but I'm not super sympathetic to it because usually there's a larger issue with kind of decision making or retention that causes that challenge.
Right. And I think, again, one of the other main pain points that came up was this, lack of clean, usable data. We talked with Todd Lebo, who from Ascend2, who we recently did a research paper with. And I think, part of it is you don't know what to do as a marketer. And it's going back to like, who are the revenue rock stars? They know what to do and what works. And if you don't have clean, usable data, you're not gonna be able to know exactly what to do, why to do it, why it's working. You're not going to be able to report to a CEO or a CFO, hey, this is why we're doing what we're doing. And you end up sending your team a little bit of everywhere to do a little bit of everything, and you run yourself thin. Does that sound accurate?
Yeah, I think the two key words in that are clean and usable. Right. I don't think anybody in modern marketing says, my problem is lack of data.
Right.
We have too much data, right? Data is not, we are surrounded by data, but we are starved for insights. It's taking data and pulling conclusions out of the data, which is the real sticky wicket for most people. Now, sometimes that's because they've got their data in a bunch of different places, and this kind of helicopters back to the unnecessarily complicated marketing tech stack that we mentioned earlier. But you're collecting data in all these places. You can't connect them. It's especially true for small and medium-sized businesses. Enterprise companies have kind of layers and third parties to kind of connect data in a way that can usually solve some of those issues. But it's harder to do from small businesses. And then you think you've got all the problems solved because you've got all this data, but you don't know what any of it means. Or the way you've gathered the data is a little off spec. And so you've got a bunch of bad email addresses in there, and just stuff's not formatted right. You can't use it. So I believe this is probably controversial, but I believe on the whole, data is overrated, right? It's not about big data. It's about big understanding. And so I typically ask people to look at it backwards, to say, what is it that you absolutely must know to accomplish your objectives? And then figure out how to learn that, as opposed to how most people do it, which is, okay, we've got all this data. Now, what does it say? Right. So if you flip the script on that, I think you end up with better results.
100% agree with that. I think I've seen many businesses get themselves in trouble by collecting all data and then trying to make sense of it afterwards, instead of saying, here's our initiative, here's our goal, here's where we want to get to. What do I need to know to get there? Like, what are the data points I need to know that I'm on that path? And then go collect that data.
Yeah.
And analyze that. So
yeah, and of course, one of the main reasons to have that data was one of the other pain points that we collected, which is attribution, right? Like I know I'm spending a bunch of money. What was it? John Wanamaker, was it 100 years ago now or 80 years ago, said, I know half my money is wasted on marketing, but I don't know which half. I mean, that was like 5 generations of marketers ago. Still a problem today. Maybe bigger problem than ever, even though everything's digital. And so using data to determine attribution and therefore set budgets is a marketing problem as old as marketing itself. And yet here we are still having challenges trying to solve for it. And certainly SharpSpring can help you a lot in that regard. It's made a big difference for me in my own business, actually.
Yeah, and I actually think it was really interesting in the session that I did with Seth Godin. When we talked about attribution, there's a lot of different points in there where, there's direct marketing attribution where someone's coming in to buy and you want that attribution, but sure, there's a whole lake of people out there that when you're doing brand marketing that don't try to attribute that stuff. Don't look at that as I should be able to attribute it. A lot of this, you're just building your brand, you're educating your market, you're growing the overall size of your market.
That's right.
And that sometimes it's a better idea to just give that information away. This was something Drew McClellan echoed, right? Give the information away. If you give it away enough and you give enough of it away to the right people, those people are going to come begging you to buy your product, to work with you, to buy your service, whatever, because they have now been educated to the point of purchase. They want to buy something.
Yeah, and I certainly find that in some cases, demanding too much attribution is sometimes used by business leaders as a reason to not take any marketing risks. We don't know exactly what's going to work. So since we can't know exactly what's going to work, we're not going to do anything that is anything other than, very straightforward and frankly boring. And sometimes you have to ask yourself, what is the ROI of precisely learning your ROI? Because it ain't free, right? And so you got to figure out, like, hey, is it worth the statistical and team member horsepower to figure it out at that level of specificity? In most cases, especially when it is in regard to brand marketing, in most cases it's not. You have to, as you said, Greg, stipulate that, hey, this is a cost of doing business, right? Making sure that people know that we exist and that our values as a company align with their values as an individual. That's a cost of doing business, and that just has to be in the budget regardless.
Yeah, and Seth brought up the TV commercials. If you're going to do a TV commercial, well, how much money are you spending on that, and what's your attribution look like? Well, we can't attribute television commercial ads.
Well, or even your own Constant Contact, right? I mean, Constant Contact was one of the very first companies that spent meaningful budget on podcast sponsorships, right? This American Life and similar programs and NPR and can you, like, I've run a podcast for 10 years. Can you precisely say this many people listen to the podcast and this many of those people gave us money? No, absolutely not. No way. You can have all the software in the world, you can't tell it precisely. And so at some point you got to be like, oh, well, more people seem to know us and more people seem to be hiring us. Therefore, something must be working. Sometimes you just got to stipulate to it,
Yeah, for sure. So really interesting stuff there on attribution. And I think when we, what leads right out of attribution is this sales and marketing misalignment, right? It's a common problem. Almost every business has this sales and marketing misalignment problem. And I
don't know if you know the stat. There's a stat that says that 55%, I think it's 55% of the words that marketing and sales use to refer to one another are negative. So it's always like that lazy marketer, right? Or that foolhardy salesperson. It's crazy.
Yeah, I totally can identify with that. I've been in many businesses before where everyone's pointing the finger at each other. Marketing saying the sales team's not doing their job. The sales team saying these leads suck, right? And everyone has been in that situation. And I think making sure that you have clean, usable data, the unified tech stack, all of those things are going to help you bring your sales and marketing team closer together. They're all seeing a unified view of the customer. There are no secrets, no silos. Everyone has a clean playing field. And you can get rid of that negative attitude towards each other.
Absolutely.
So the last sort of common pain point that I want to make sure that we touch on here. And this one is sort of near and dear to my heart because I believe so much from ongoing sales and growth of your business comes out of this one common pain point, if you can solve it, is client retention, right? If you solve the problems that your clients have, you will retain them, right? If you can stay focused on solving their problem, whatever that problem is, you identify it, you have, all of these other common pain points help you solve that client's problem and really making sure that you not only get the feedback from the customers about what problems you've solved for them and how their business has changed based on that, being able to communicate that in a use case for future business, or even just earn yourself some experience points for being able to solve those problems, you will retain your clients. You will grow your business. They will spend their word of mouth telling other people about how you help them grow their business.
I wrote about this years ago in my book, Hug Your Haters. This idea that every business person in the world knows that it's less expensive to keep a customer than to get a customer. But yet it's 2022 and we still don't run our businesses as if this was the case, right? You think about how much time, money, and effort you spend on marketing for customer acquisition, and comparatively how much time, money, effort you spend on marketing for customer retention and growth, and it's a drop in the bucket. It just doesn't make any sense. I don't know what else to do, right? I wrote a book about it, gave 200 speeches about it, still have the problem. Sorry, my my work is done, but I'll keep banging the drum.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like such a simple thing, and you would think that people would invest in it. And I don't think there's anyone out there who doesn't agree with the concept. It's just, how, right?
And I think part of it is, and this goes back to sales and marketing alignment, Greg. In a lot of organizations, leadership is compensated based on net new growth, disproportionate to compensation for retention. And so, incentives dictate behavior at some level. And so I think part of it is we just need to rethink how we structure some of those programs.
Yeah. So those are the main pain points that we were able to tease out of our 11 sessions of Revenue Rockstars. And over this time period that we've been talking, Jay, we've got a couple of questions here that came in. I think we should address a few of these before we wrap up this session. I think one of these comments came in from YouTube, and I think it's great. Max says, love these Revenue Rockstar sessions. Always gets me refocused and dialed in. Quality of work is key. Great speaker. That's you, Jay.
Oh, wow. Very nice. Thank you, Max. Very, very kind of you to say. Appreciate it.
Yeah, got to make sure we cover that off. So thank you for that, Max. And thanks for attending all the Revenue Rockstar sessions. So which of these pain points has sort of resonated most with you, Jay? I'm curious.
Well, let me think about that. I mean, I've been doing this so long, I'm deceptively youthful looking. It's the soft studio lighting that makes me seem younger than I actually am. So I have experienced all of these in my career, and certainly many, many times. I would say, but ultimately, the one that I think is the hardest is gaining competitive advantage, because there is no secret sauce. It doesn't matter what business you're in. You do not have a unique product or service. You may think you do, but you don't. And if you do, you won't for very long. And already 80%, I think 82% is the current number of chief marketing officers say that they will compete in 2022 primarily on the basis of customer experience. But what I find really fascinating is that marketing and customer experience are converging. Customer experience is all the different decisions that we make, and the impact of those decisions is how we make customers feel. Marketing is just kind of the first part of that journey, right? So if we can get the marketing part right, and by right, I don't just mean revenue, I mean delighting customers, then that sets you up for retention and growth and all those other things. But it's really, really hard to differentiate because you've got a better product or service. It's easier to differentiate in how you treat people, and that begins with how you market to people.
I love it. That it's one of the best ways I think you could sum up even what a revenue rock star is. Somebody who does not look at marketing as the first part of the customer journey, and that's all. Right? Marketing goes all the way. It's full funnel, top to bottom. If you have a subscription product, marketing goes all the way through the end of retention, right? And you have to think about it that way. That's how you're going to grow your revenue. And I'm blown away that you chose that one and it works so well with the Revenue Rock. So we didn't talk about that ahead of time or anything. So I thought that's really it's really cool. What do you think are your, or what do you think will be your greatest challenge when you head into 2022 and throughout the rest of this year?
Yeah, I'm actually working on this new program called Experience Dynamic, which is a marketing and customer experience collective. So it's multiple professional services agencies, including Convince and Convert and Lane Terralever. And the idea is that in most organizations, marketing is now in charge of the customer experience.
Mhm.
Yet most marketers don't actually have specific CX experience and vice versa. So we're on this journey to try and convince marketers that the math of customer experience and the strategy of customer experience actually does yield to better revenue and profits, and to convince customer experience professionals that marketing isn't a dirty word. So that's what I'm working on in 2022. Some of it kind of goes back to sales and marketing alignment. Now it's
Mhm.
CX and marketing
Mhm.
alignment, which is, I think, a really interesting topic. So a lot to come in that regard. But so far, people seem to be picking up what we're putting down. So that's good news.
Awesome. There's one other question that came in that I think is really interesting, and it kind of goes back to what we were saying about focus and really narrowing in on your target audience. Do you have any tips for identifying an ideal customer profile or someone you should target? Like, how should a marketer go about identifying who to narrow in on and focus on?
I mean, the best way to do it is to figure out who's giving you money now, right? And there's a reason for that, and say, all right, well, if a majority of my current audience, or even a plurality of my current audience looks like this, it's safe to assume that a plurality of my future audience will look similarly, unless you're making huge changes to what you offer, your market positioning, or some other kind of tweak. And going back to what we said earlier in McGee's quote, most marketers don't know all that much about their audience. They think they do, but they don't really, right? They've got a
Mhm.
customer survey they did 4 years ago, which is totally invalid after the pandemic, or they've talked to customers here or there, which is anecdote, not math. So I believe that 2022 will actually be a really important year for customer research to uncover some of those ideas. Like, okay, you want to figure out who to sell to? Well, figure out who you have sold to.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. And Jay, we're running out of time here. I gotta say, like, this has been an awesome session. Even this, talking with you and having this conversation has been fantastic. Like, there's just so much good stuff that has come out of this Revenue Rockstar series, and I'm thankful to you for helping us out with this and coming on. I'm really looking forward to everyone getting to see this wrap up that we're going to be putting out.
Yeah,
But
highlight video is going to be super cool. We giving away prizes now?
I think it's time to give away some prizes. You wanna take it away and
I'll start. Jump in. So the first prize I think is concert tickets. Is that what we're doing? Concert tickets. Make sure, by the way, to go to sharpspring.com/revenue-rockstars to be first in line for new content in the series. We'll send you the highlight video and all that kind of stuff. So concert tickets. It's a $300 gift card for concerts, live or virtual, as the case may be. It's pretty fantastic. If you take Jay Bear with you to the concert, I will buy all the drinks and also teach you about tequila, because that's my thing. I am a licensed tequila sommelier. Everybody who attended the series is in this. Wow, that's a very, very large wheel of names.
a large wheel of customers.
Okay, so everybody's in there. Our amazing assistant Elise is going to press this button, and somebody's going to win a $300 concert tickets gift card. Go. We may break the internet because
We could.
That's an awful
lot of names.
A lot of names.
Just looks like a bunch of colors. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what's happening.
Hopefully, when it stops, the name pops up and it's somebody legible.
Hopefully, hopefully it's not in 2-point font. Or wait to go to a show with you, Catherine. It's going to be amazing.
Tequila is going to be fantastic.
Tequila's going to be great. I'll let you pick the show. So that's going to be great. Let's see, other prizes. So for those of you who have tuned into other parts of this series, if you sign up for a demo of SharpSpring. And as a SharpSpring customer, I suggest that you do just that. If you sign up for a demo, you get a t-shirt. And there's a whole series of these awesome concert style t-shirts. I don't always drive, but when I do, I drive revenue, etc. They're great. But I think we've got some other shirts, right? Is that the story?
We do have some. We have a lot of shirts left.
Okay.
And so, if
what do you want to do?
Well, I mean, since it's the last in the series, I think we need to get rid of the shirts.
Okay.
Really, so.
All right. So here's what we're going to do. This is going to be a page out of Oprah's book. You get a shirt, and you get a shirt, and you get a shirt. All right. Here's what you have to do. Just send an email with your number one marketing pain point for 2022. Your number one pain point for 2022. Send us an email. We'll put the email address up on screen, and we'll send it to you also in the follow-up email. Send us an email, and you're going to get a shirt. Pick out your size, etc. They're super cool. They're well made too. They're not cheapies. And you got to wear it loud and proud. Okay.
Wear it to the concert with Jay.
Yes. Catherine, you and I are going to wear matching shirts to the concert. It's going to be incredible.
Yep. So, I mean, I think with that, all we have left to say is thank you. Thank you all for attending the series, watching, commenting, sending in your comments to us and your questions. It's been great.
Super
Jay,
fun.
Again, appreciate you coming on and doing this with us. And we look forward to doing much, much more in the future. So stay tuned. And there'll be a lot more coming from SharpSpring. But as for now, Revenue Rockstars signing off.